Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on this Monday morning. Big week for you football nerds out there. The Combine begins on Thursday. The quarterbacks get the highlight on Saturday. Found out yesterday, NFL Network reported that Shedeur Sanders will not throw. I think that's automatically disqualifying. If you're not going to throw, if you're not going to do the drills, you can't go. And that comes off as totally homerific. I understand that because Cam Miller should be there because the guy, he would certainly do everything. That's just my own 2 cents. You get your own pro day and you get to throw to the 4 wide receivers that are all going to go to the NFL, but that's just my 2 cents there as we welcome in Sam Herder, who joins us each and every Monday at 9:35. You got any other gripes you want to air on the Combine as well? That, to me, that's my biggest one. Don't take a spot if you're not going to do anything.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair one. Any other gripes? I'm not sure when it comes to the Combine. I was there last year, and it was really well run from a media perspective. It was mostly the benefit of being there was just you get access to each one of these guys. Yep. No one-on-ones, but kind of they just throw them up on a podium, and some guys get 70 people asking them questions. There's some guys that get one person asking them questions. But as far as like the actual workouts, I remember last year I went into the stadium to watch the workouts on the field, and I lasted like 15 minutes. And I'm like, all right, this is even more boring in person than on TV. But I think we talked about it like last week. All those measurables are still really important for these NFL draft prospects.
Well, to me, honestly, the stuff that we don't see is where everybody makes their money. The interviews, what's going on behind the scenes. That's where, especially for the FCS guys, they have their chance to really make an impact and rise in the draft. I really don't think anything drill-wise can really help their stock. That's my opinion. And you were there, so I guess you have a better grasp of it than me.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different stuff. It is the measurables is part of it, but I think too just the team meetings and getting a feel for the guys individual. They go through medical stuff as well. I don't know off the top of my head how much X's and O's they do. Sometimes that is something they do in kind of private workouts, putting them up on the whiteboard and testing their knowledge. But there are just so many. NFL team, personnel just walking around from coaches to upper management. It's really a quite the scene there to see like all the different people, walking around wearing lanyards, and you're kind of wondering, all right, what team is this guy with? What team is that guy with? And it's all in one big convention center, so it's just a sea of people, and it is kind of cool to be there.
I'm interested on a couple guys, and the drills get going starting on Thursday. D-line and linebackers go Thursday. The DBs and the tight ends on Friday. Mentioned all the skill guys go on Saturday. The quarterbacks, wide receivers, and the running backs and the offensive linemen, including any issues. Gray Zabel will have his workout on Sunday. I know we talked about him last week. David Walker, to me, is the guy who could be the real riser. Athletically wise, that's a guy that maybe if you haven't seen him play in the drills, he could be the guy who pops on social media this time later this week.
Yeah, I think so as well. He's a guy measurable wise, like he's not super long or super tall, which they look at that type of stuff as an edge performer. But I think he has great strength. He should run pretty well as well in the 40-yard dash time, and some of the stuff, the good twitch, and all that stuff, those type of words that they use. I think he could perform pretty well at the Combine. And Marcus Yarns is another guy as well that I think could really pop off. Delaware running back. He reminds me of, and I don't know if his measurables will stack up or not, because I know Pierre Strong Jr. had a really strong Combine as well, but just film wise and running style wise, Marcus Yarns reminds me a lot of Pierre Strong Jr., the former South Dakota State running back. So those are two guys I'm really interested in looking and watching. And then there's some offensive linemen as well, like Gray Zabel, Charles Grant as well from William and Mary. I think Jackson Slater from Sacramento State could show off some of his physical traits as well. So it should be interesting to kind of see where these guys stack up with some of the other players.
If Bruce Feldman has you as one of the freaks, that means it's a good sign. And those guys you all mentioned are all on his list of top athletic freaks that he does each and every year that are all going to be at the Combine. I wanted to get into a couple things here. UND put out statement, I believe, on Thursday or Friday about their future with the House settlement. They are not going, or Thursday, they're not going to opt in, which means all the Dakota schools, Sam, are in the same boat, that they're not opting into the settlement. Of the schools in the Valley, of the 10 that are now remaining, we know 6 of them. The 4 Dakotas aren't. Southern Illinois and Youngstown are going to opt in. We do not know about Northern Iowa. We don't know about Illinois State. We don't know about Murray State on what they are going to do. Let's first start on the UND side of this, because all the Dakotas, at least for 2025, are not going to opt in.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, just to see the differing opinions here on what each school wants to do, and it's interesting that all 4 Dakota schools decide not to opt in, at least for this first year. And in past years, it seems like maybe more so North Dakota State has set some type of precedent, whether it was like I can't remember. Like I think
cost of attendance,
probably the cost of attendance,
they were number
exactly.
one.
Yeah, but then pretty quickly after that, some other schools said, okay, well, we better do this. And so I kind of thought, just going back several weeks ago, that like maybe NDSU would be the first team to opt in and kind of just set that precedent, and then others would follow suit. But I think it was pretty early on that NDSU came out and said they didn't plan to opt in, and I think some of the other Dakota schools either followed suit, or they're already planning on not opting in, or maybe it's kind of just conversations they had together. What are you thinking? What are the pros and cons of opting in or opting out? But yeah, like you said, the teams that have decided to opt in or are leaning toward opting in: Southern Illinois, Youngstown States, we know want to opt in. Montana State wants to opt in. Sacramento State wants to opt in. The entire CAA it plans to opt in. I don't think that was. I think with the CAA, it came down to a vote. I don't think every single team, all dozens of them, I don't know if every single CAA team wanted to opt in, but they basically took the approach of, if we're going to do something in or out, let's do it as a conference. Let's take a vote. And I don't know what the voting percentage was, but they ultimately decided to opt in. So the entire CAA will be opting into the House settlement.
Yeah, the 4 we don't know on: Northern Iowa, Indiana State, Murray State, and Illinois State. The common thread with all those, they're all Valley basketball schools, which I'm intrigued if they all decide to do that. That means maybe they're going to have to do that.
Yeah, and the conference-wide thing, I don't know if, like, ideally every member in a conference is kind of in the same boat. I ideally, but I also don't know if a conference can prevent a school from opting in. Like if 10 schools, or whatever, 10 schools in the Big Sky don't want to opt in, but Montana State and Sac State do want to opt in, like, and they take a vote on it, like, usually, even if you want to do something or you don't want to do something, you still kind of, you probably should follow the the conference vote. But at the same time, I don't know legally if you can enforce a team not to opt in. And so it'll be interesting to see what some of these conferences do. I know the Big Sky is meeting at some point this week. I know the SoCon is still kind of talking about it. And some of these conference makeups are so interesting as well, because let's take the SoCon for example. You have some bigger public schools like Chattanooga, Western Carolina, that I don't know this for sure. Maybe schools like that are leaning toward opting in, but then you have a program or a school like Wofford where half of their enrollment are student athletes. So they don't want to opt in, because that means, like what Matt Larson said, you have to cut players, and you don't want to do that because it's going to impact your enrollment. And so, and the deadline to declare is March 1st,
right?
Which seems like a good deadline for future years, but in this first year, it seems pretty early because the House settlement is not even approved yet. So that's the thing. Like, it's not even approved right now. I think it's going to be like early April where it actually gets approved or not.
Yeah, and that's the reasoning that UND gave, is the uncertainty of where it's going to be because it won't be out till probably April 7th, I believe, is the date that was given on that. That adds a whole layer of intrigue as well. Like, okay, what if we opt in, but we don't know what the structure is of it, and then we're cutting. It is a mess of to the nth degree on that. I really am interested to see what the other Missouri Valley schools end up doing. Southern Illinois and Youngstown are both going to trending in the direction that they're going to opt in on the settlement, but that doesn't mean they're going to immediately go to 105 football scholarships. That's the thing you and I have talked about, it seems like almost every week on this program, so I apologize for people that are sick of this topic, but it's important because it doesn't automatically mean, Sam, that come August 31, SIU and Youngstown have 105 football scholarships.
Yeah, and with the house settlement too, it pretty much just gives you the option to do stuff, but it's not like set in stone. You
Correct.
have to do this. Like you can, if you opt in, you can revenue share, but you don't have to. You can opt in and revenue share $0 or $100,000, or the maximum is $20.5 million. There's also like other stuff like Alston payments. Like I think right now there's kind of a cap on what you can offer in Alston payments. Which is kind of education based, payments to players. If you opt in, there's no more cap on that. Same thing with scholarships. If you opt in, theoretically, Southern Illinois next year could offer 105 football scholarships. They can. Are they going to do that? There's a 0.0% chance, or 0.1 percent chance that they actually do that. Even the SEC, the richest conference in college athletics, they're sticking at 85 football scholarships for this upcoming year, just because the cost to add 20 more scholarships to get to the 105 is a lot. And so I know a lot of FCS fans will say, like, wait, like the CAA can go to 105 football scholarships now because the CAA decided not to set a cap. And it's like,
no.
Yes, they can, but they're not going to unless they get a $50 million donation from
right.
Hey, yeah, we want all these football scholarships. And so that's why it's so murky, because opting in, you can do stuff, but how many of these FCS schools can actually afford to do so? Probably not a lot. It just allows you a little bit more flexibility with what you can do with your scholarships.
I'm keeping an eye, I'm sure you are as well. The story that's the College Football Playoff Commissioner they're going to meet again this week, and it certainly seems like going to 14 or 16 is going to happen. How it affects the FCS, I'm really intrigued with, Sam, because if they end up expanding the conference championship weekend, which is on the table where they have certain leagues, the Big Ten would have its first place team play its eighth place team and get a berth into the tournament. How that affects the FCS is that's more games on TV that just pushes the FCS, which they got to be looking at saying, all right, we just had our greatest year of being on national TV, and that might be a really short-lived window, because it certainly seems like the CFP is coming to take some extra days, coming probably in 2026.
Yeah, it seems like expanding the CFP bracket is basically going to be a for sure thing, and we'll see kind of how that lines up. It seems like the quarterfinal weekend has usually been pretty good for the FCS playoffs, because that's kind of a lull there in the FBS, and then we'll see kind of where things are at with the FCS title game. Like they found a great spots in that Monday night game, a couple million viewers. And so it seems like they're going to do that again next year. I don't know if the CFP will kind of bleed into that eventually or not. We'll have to see. But, I know from a FCS perspective, I guess, because one of the many things that when people say, should we jump to the FBS, should we not, one of the things is kind of having a chance at the college football playoff. And it seems like, at least for the next X amount of years, 4 or 5 years, that the group of 5 is still going to have their auto bid into the CFP, even with all these changes. And so that's obviously a good thing for the group of 5, because I know there's administrators and coaches in the group of 5 that even now they're saying that eventually we might not get that auto bid, into the CFP, because these big boys are going to want, all the auto bids to themselves. But at least for the next handful of years, it seems like the group of 5 will still have a seat at that table.
It's great to see you, bud. Thanks for the time as always. We'll chat next week when the combine wraps up. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Sam Herder joins us each and every Monday at 9:30 to chat some FCS topics. Of course, the House settlement, a big one. I'd keep an eye on that. What happens this week? The big wigs in college football are meeting, and we didn't have time to get into this last week, so I apologize. But the thought process is now for conference championship weekend, because it lost some steam this year with the teams that won the Big Ten. Oregon won the Big Ten title game and then lost in the first round of the CFP, is to have that weekend be for automatic bursts into the tournament, into the CFP. So the first place team in the Big Ten to play maybe the 8th place team, 1 versus 8. And the winner of that gets an automatic bid, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. Well, the reason they're going to do that, A, the networks are going to pay up the wazoo for more games, and B, to guarantee the Big Ten and the SEC get 4 seats at the table out of whatever, if it's 14 or 16, yeah, they want to do that. I'm not sure how much the ACC and the Big 12 are on board with that, but that's where things are trending right now. So something that we'll be keeping our eyes on is that I don't know if it gets decided this week. It's certainly going to get discussed this week. We'll break. We come back. We'll wrap up our first hour. We'll chat some Summer League hoops. Got a bunch of emails coming in as well. We'll save that for our second hour as we roll on in a Monday morning edition of Hot Mike. We're back after this.